So welcome to the Beyond the Deal podcast. I have a very special guest today, Benny Troncoso. We've known each other a couple of years now. Is that right? Maybe a year and a half? Yeah. How did we first get connected?
I think we did a deal together a few years back. We first got connected there, and then we reconnected about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it was great. I think I was taking a look at one of the two families that you had on the market at the time and invited you to a couple events. Why don't you just start off, tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Going on my 5th year here in the business, and I'm a real estate agent. I was initially an assistant director of field operations for the Department of Housing for the state of Mass. And so what I did is I managed different offices where homeless families went to apply. We actually put into the state-aided family shelters. So other side of the spectrum, these are folks that don't have a legit roof over their head. I transitioned to being a full-time real estate agent a couple years ago after COVID. You know, everyone was working from home. We were beginning to go back to the office, and I had started already doing some deals, and I passion just grew. I always had a passion for real estate. I invested in real estate. I've done so actively for about 14 years.
So even when you were working in the housing department, what got you originally into investing in real estate? Like, what started that? Did you have somebody that you knew? Was it like family that had done it, or?
No, I hadn't. No one that I knew. I just joined a community called Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
Bigger Pockets community. And I was always active on the forums and watching all the podcasts and all the videos back then. No one in my family had ever purchased a property outside of the Dominican where my mother and father are from. So, I kind of learned different strategies on how to, invest in real estate. And I started, first by purchasing a multifamily and try to house hack, live in one unit, rent the other. And so I bought, I believe it was in 2011, beginning of 2011, bought a home in Boston in Hyde Park.
Yeah.
I had twins, and they were getting a little older, going into the toddler stage. And we kind of wanted to separate them, give them their own room, own space to grow. And, I started researching, and I found the program called NACA. So I was able to purchase my first home through that program.
And that was the property up in Hyde Park?
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
That was the property.
What year was that? Like, how old were you then?
2011. So I bought it real cheap. I bought a 2-family in Hyde Park with a finished basement in 2011 for $270.
Isn't that crazy, huh?
That's crazy. And so that, obviously, the equity grew, and I was able to then, tap into that equity and leverage that property into getting into other deals and other transactions after that. So that kind of catapulted me into investing in real estate.
Have you sold property before?
Yes.
So did you sell the place in Hyde Park?
I ended up selling that place in that Hyde Park a few years after that.
Okay.
But yeah, I was doing transactions. I had done 5 or 6 transactions personally before I got my license.
Interesting. Do you regret selling?
I always regret selling.
Yeah,
I regret selling that property.
Yeah.
Not so much because of the emotional attachment, but because there was other ways that I could have kept it. I could have dealt with that.
Why did you decide to sell at that point? At that point,
I had a better deal going on. I had a great opportunity to jump into a similar property at a great price.
Yeah.
And I had already tapped into it a couple times, and my debt to income ratio kind of didn't allow me to get another HELOC out of it to invest in the property. Like I said, I had that opportunity. So I had the option of doing that 1031 because I had identified a property. So I was able to swing things real quick.
Nice.
And so I did it quick. Because I did it quick, I didn't really think about other strategies in terms of maybe refinancing, cashing out, or getting some other type of loan to
even hard money, something like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. So you're doing the investment thing. You sort of watch the Bigger Pockets podcast, which that started a long time ago,
way
right?
back.
Yeah, that was one of the OG
pioneers.
podcasts. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I had listened to a lot of it at the time. Back in 2011, I was selling a lot of bank-owned and foreclosed property, and I look back at that day, and I didn't have like pennies to fucking rub together at that point. But I look back at that, and I sold so many 3-deckers in Dorchester and JP and Rossi for 100 and a quarter a unit.
Wow.
And now those things are like, 600 a unit, 500 a unit, which is crazy. Same thing in Brockton. I was selling 3-family for $150,000. No, it didn't have any plumbing or anything like that. But back then you could rehab the house for less than 100, be into it for 250. And now they're 750, 800,
Absolutely.
It's crazy how the market goes. But so you're working at the housing department, and then sort of you get the idea to sell real estate.
Yeah, I got kind of used to controlling my schedule, working from home, doing all that. And so when the governor asked for us to go back into the offices after COVID, I had already even bought tickets to go for a wedding at the DR for my friend's wedding. And so I had all these elaborate plans, and obviously I had already requested permission to go on vacation, which, think about it now, I'm like, it's fucking crazy that an adult has to request
permission. Yeah.
to go. Nonetheless, so I did all that, and I had everything bought. And a month before I had to go fly out for the wedding, a couple people went out on disability leave and stuff like that. And the deputy director's telling me, no, you can't go. We're going to be shorthanded. You can't go. We need you. Your supervisors are out. You're going to have to, pitch in. I'm like, I already bought these tickets.
Right.
You need to pitch in.
Yeah.
And so, she was like, well, it's either that or I said, well, what, 2 weeks notice. So here's your 2 weeks notice. And I left and I never looked back. Obviously, what gave me the motivation to pump my chest out and do all that was because I was already generating enough income on doing real estate deals.
So you're selling on the side at that point.
I was already selling on the side, and I was generating. This was in July, a month before July. And I had already made 1.5 times what my salary was at the state. And I knew that if I had 100% of my attention and time into.
So how much were you making at the state at the point?
I want to say about 75K, 75K.
Right.
Yeah. And with all the headaches, 36 working staff under me, 5 supervisors, 4 offices across the state. My phone was on all the time with emergencies.
You were essentially living the life that a real estate agent does with sort of the unpredictability of your schedule and being on all the time and nights and weekends and all that kind of stuff, the stress of it, but you weren't making the money from it either.
Exactly.
Which is wild. And so, that sort of does align with why a lot of folks get into this business. But because you had already you were already a person that could sort of thrive in that environment. My hallucination is that it was sort of easy for you to go into the real estate sales business.
It was easier, not just financially because of the money. It was easier because I had already gone to a level. I don't have a college education. I went into a level where I was so far detached from what really got me into that industry, which was to help people face to face, hold their hands, get them into a shelter, get some Stop and Shop gift cards, go help them grab whatever, bring them back to the shelter, have them get established, register their kids for school. Do they need clothes? Go and, stuff like that. So I was so far detached from that I was just dealing with folks and with employees and their issues, but so far detached from my motive to get into the whole social work industry that it was just so easy for me to just say, I'm not getting the reward at the end of knowing that I impacted someone's life to that level. And in real estate, I was doing that. I was helping first generation home buyers achieve the dream that they never thought or their family thought was never possible, is to buy in the United States or to buy their first home or even to get into a multifamily home and start generating income from that. And so I was getting that from real estate. So it was, put the financial stuff on the side. It was just easy for me to make that decision.
Yeah. Well, there was a purpose behind what you were doing, right? And a passion to help other people, similar to the way that sort of you had gotten to that point within your real estate investment career too. So how were you connecting with clients at that point? Was it word of mouth? Was it through, sort of social events? Was it through a community? Like, how did you first start to really build your business?
So I was born and raised in Boston. So I've always been involved in extra stuff, including baseball. I was semi-popular guy growing up in the city of Boston. Not only that,
with a face like that. I mean, come on, man.
I drove a yellow car, which got a lot of attention.
Downtown Boston, that's for sure.
But not just that, just knowing a lot of people, a lot of folks, and even at my job where I was, I always stayed in people's minds. Anyone needs help, they knew to just send them to me. And we try to help them there. But when I got my license, my wife just had the brilliant idea of me opening my social medias. I had no social media before I got my license before 2020. And so I did all that, and that kind of put me back on the top of people's mind, but on a different level now, slowly but surely. And obviously the interest rates being at 3% helped as well.
Especially for the investment field.
Yes, it got me in the spotlight, but because people knew me and they trusted me from the job that I did, or from the type of work that I did. They knew that I was a good person, that I was there to help. So it was just easier for them to feel comfortable calling me and knowing that I would have their best interests at heart.
So from there, you go full time, and I assume, was there any sort of stumbling blocks when you got into it full time? Was it different than you expected? Sort of like what sort of lessons did you learn at the beginning of your real estate career?
A lot of lessons, just that it's a lot harder than people think. It's a lot harder than what you see on HGTV or Netflix or anything like that. When you're really in the trenches, especially if you're dealing with first generation home buyers, there's an aspect of educating them, not just filling their wants and needs when it comes to buying a house, but also an education in terms of what type of investment you're making, what type of return you're getting if you're getting into a multifamily, also what type of equity you will be building if you get into a single family. But let's look at neighborhoods, pocket neighborhoods within certain cities and towns, and just going through them. Some people have never seen an electric panel because they live in an apartment.
Right.
Some people have never seen a water heater or a boiler. Uncovering those and walking them through that as we walk through the open house. I usually had a system where we'd meet, we do a buyer consult, I get you pre-approved. We walk through a few open houses, minimum 6, and I walk through and we spend a ton of time in the basement of those houses, just going through the mechanicals, just so when they go out and I'm not around and they're going out to the open houses without me, they know where to look. And if they don't know, they recorded videos they would send me. And so I was able to just help as many buyers as possible and feeling comfortable that they were being helped, that they were making the right decision.
Yep.
It was very stressful. It was a lot of work, but it was very comforting because I kept getting that feeling again of making a difference and impacting people's lives.
So when you talk about, it was harder, was it more from the standpoint of like understanding how to guide people or to obtain the business? It sounds like almost the business was there, but you had to learn how to manage people's expectations and their education of the process and helping them make an informed decision versus just making an emotional one.
Right.
So was it hard to get business at that point, or?
Believe it or not, it wasn't. And for any other realtor that started around that era, if they didn't know it then, they'll recognize it now. It was very easy to start at that point. So I was lucky enough to start at that point where prices had yet to come up or skyrocket as they have, and interest rates were still low.
Right.
It's fairly easy for me to just convince them on, shoot, you're paying $2,400 mortgage. I can get you into a $2,400 rent. I can get you into a $2,200 mortgage, and you're paying your mortgage instead of paying your landlord's mortgage. That was easy. It was just easy. The hard part was educating them, was just managing their anxiety into you're getting into a house, you're not calling the landlord if anything breaks, you're it, but this is how you do it, this is what you look at, this is how you manage it, this is how you maintain it, and stuff like that. Fast forward to now, I'm learning more that you're building a business. So all the work that I did back then, not only are you staying in contact with those folks, but you're building a business. And so for me, growing my business now is more about time. Is what I lack now. I always had the patience to talk to them. I always knew what to tell them, what to say. But I struggle with time nowadays.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm managing, and that's what I'm hoping to get more of, so that I'm able to grow my business and help more people.
Well, especially because you've got young baby at the house now, so timing is important. Going back to just sort of the start of your career, because I think it's fascinating, and I think a lot of agents will sometimes find a lot of a connection to somebody. It sounds like you started mostly in buyer agency.
Right.
How did you transition? How did you start taking listings? Was it just you had worked as a buyer's agent for so long that eventually you started stumbling into listings? Did you target those? Like, how did you start listing homes for sale?
Yeah, and so like I said, I recognized a couple years ago that interest rates were going up. My time is dwindling now, and I don't have enough time to service a lot of people. So I started leveraging just cold calling, prospecting, and doing more outbound stuff in terms of lead generating.
Yep.
And also I've been doing 50-50 now, sellers and buyers. And I'm hoping to go at least 70-30 by the start of next year with the prospecting that I continue to do and the folks that I have in the pipeline. But those are all new. Like the last 4 listings that I've had all been generated by outbound calls. They're not resale folks that I helped purchase home that are now selling. These are folks that I contacted that I didn't know, that are not part of my sphere of influence or anything like that.
So who are you calling? So when you talk about outbound prospecting and that sort of thing, like who are you calling?
I started calling absentee owners, emailing them, and absentee owners. I purchased there's a group called the Share Group, and they sell data. And so what I started doing was absentee, because initially I was just randomly calling folks.
Sure.
Whenever a house sold with my previous brokerage, I'd leverage their sale, and I started calling a circle prospect.
Sure.
But I quickly learned that it was a little tough for me, not knowing, not having any coaching, not having any script or anything. I was getting a lot of hangups. I was getting people pissed off. There was a couple times, 2 times, that I had people actually text back because I was using my cell phone number.
Yeah.
Text me back and say, "Hey Benny, how about I sell your 7 Davidson Court, like my address where I live?"
Yeah.
And so, okay, I get where they're coming from. I'm hoping they answer the call and within 10 seconds of hearing my voice that they give me their biggest asset without even knowing if they're selling. They might be planning to stay there for 10 or 15, 20 years. So for me, I was easy to transition into absentee. I was like, this is not the house where they live in.
Right.
It's just an investment. They're probably tired of their tenants. Let me start calling. So I started calling absentees, and that's how I got my feet wet, and that's how I started feeling comfortable just, hammering those absentee owners.
Yeah, and as soon as you have a certain amount of success with that too, and you buy into it,
right,
you can really start to put the full weight of what you're doing behind sort of that effort. That was similar to me when we started doing, expireds and for sale by owners, and that was back in 2007, 2008. So that was right after the financial crisis, and homes prices went down 20, 30, 40%. And so, sellers were just having a really hard time getting their equity out. And so there was a lot of that expired business back then. So when I started calling those guys, it was like that they've already illustrated that they have a motivation to move. Now it's just being able to take the education that I had and be able to show them why their home was worth less and this is what you could do in order to get it sold and tell them the truth, something that a lot of real estate agents didn't want to tell them because they didn't want to hear it, right? And so, I look at what you're doing and I think it's a great way for you to be able to provide value because most folks, they don't know sort of having a professional real estate agent come in and help them out can make that process that much easier. A lot of people have the hesitation to doing anything, right? Because if it's not easy, if there's a barrier for them to get something done, right? Like, I have to connect with a real estate agent and they might have preconceived notions about what a real estate agent will do to help them.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you call them up and you say, "Hey, I'm a real estate agent.
Right.
I'd really like to help you out."
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, all right, great. I didn't think it would be this easy."
Yeah.
Right? But you can help solve people's problems. And if you present yourself as somebody who can solve people's problems, people will raise their hands and say, "Yeah, I'd like you to help me do that."
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. So that's awesome. What do you think the biggest misconception people have about being a real estate agent is?
I think, and it's a good segue because I was just going to elaborate a little bit more. So I'll use this answer to do so. To think that it's easy and they forget that it's a sales gig. But in order for a sale or transaction to take place, there's some value that needs to be exchanged. And so folks just think that just because they got their license, their friends and family and anyone they know should be listing with them, and that should be it. It should be that easy. I just think even whether you're helping the sphere of influence, whether you're helping a family referral, or whether you're cold calling and you're trying to convince someone to list with you, you have to demonstrate some type of value, and you have to approach it with that mindset that you're trying to help them. And I think we forget. I know I did at some point. Is that this is a sales business, and you're maybe you're not selling the house up front, you're selling yourself first, and then you sell the home after that. But the fact that it's a sales business and the fact that you are your own business, and it's really lonely. It's a lonely business.
It is. Well, it can be. It depends on who you surround yourself with and put yourself in proximity. And that was one of the things that I did back in, certainly in 2014 when I shifted from bank-owned property to conventional real estate. I had to travel across the country to find other really motivated people and sort of surround myself at every opportunity with them, because there are a lot of really good real estate agents, people that are really committed to helping others, other agents, but also their clients.
Right.
You seem like a really amiable person. You really, even in your line of work, working in, the housing, the state housing industry, and then sort of everything that I'm hearing you say is really educate them and help them understand and help them, right? Would you say that that's your biggest strength, sort of going in there and really caring about people?
I think so. That's my biggest strength, but it also makes it my biggest weakness, is that I focus so much on that again, I forget that this is a business and I have to grow my business. And just like you said, just aligning yourself with folks that are maybe able to complement that, your weakness or the part that isn't your strongest. And so after I attended a couple of your mindset masterminds, I quickly thought, I'm missing this part. here's the part that I'm missing. And at the brokerage that I'm at, I'm not going to get that. Here's some folks that align with my values. Here's a EXP, kind of a platform where I can build that and it's suitable for that. And going back to the folks that I serve, and so it's just so being in, it's just here to try and do that is, helping first generation home buyers achieve their dream. That's going to be my biggest goal ever. When I got into the business, I realized that there was an even bigger issue, and there are some folks in some regions in Massachusetts and Providence that are severely underserved, and underrepresented.
Yeah.
When it comes to real estate. And so I think that I can fill that need.
Yeah.
And I think I can build a business around filling that need. And again, aligning myself with folks like you that have done it before and at scale from a business perspective. And then me with my mindset and my goal to helping those folks and EXP, the platform to do it. I think that I not only can do that, but realizing that I can't do all of that because the gap is huge. I can't do that on my own. Empowering other agents I might attract to help me fulfill this goal. Again, EXP is the perfect platform to do it. That's why I thought it was just, it's just a super easy choice to make to switch over to EXP.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when you say that, because when I reflect back on sort of the journey that I've taken to get to this point in my career, it's really difficult because we are highly paid technicians, which means that if you're good at selling real estate and good at prospecting and creating value for clients and going out there and doing a good job, you get paid really well for what you do if you can get to that point, and if you really take this as a business, right? Mm-hmm. And more so if you take this really as a job, like as a salesperson's job. I think the problem is that not only do we have to we have to develop into a really good salesperson, but then at the same time, we have to develop into a really good business person. Mm-hmm. And if you look at it, even if you're the very best technician, you're the best at what you do, the best salesperson out there, there is going to be a limitation on the number of people that you can have an impact on.
Right.
Because you only have a certain amount of time. Even if you're the most efficient with your time, there is a limit to it.
Right.
And if you're the only one that's pouring into the value that is provided to an end user, a consumer, buyer, or seller, again, there's going to be that limitation. So when I saw and we connected and we started having conversations, I saw that you had that empathy, that you had that sort of amiable personality where you really wanted to impact people. And a lot of the times that personality gets stuck in the technician role because they want to just help and help and help and help. And sometimes feeling like if you're pulling back and delegating, or if you're providing opportunities for other agents, it almost feels like you're not doing the work that is having the impact. Have you felt that in the past?
Yes, I felt that. Not only that, but just feeling like, okay, here's folks that I've now helped buy their first home. How do I help them continue on investing in real estate and growing their portfolio if that's what they want to do, or maybe moving up as their family grows to their second home. Who am I aligning myself with that's going to help me serve them? These are tools that I may not have on my tool belt right now to be able to help them. Who can I align myself and on with you down in the downline? Obviously, I believe gave me those tools, gave me the opportunity to learn from people that have done it in the past, so that I could pass on all that knowledge on to my clients and just better serve them.
Yeah. And I think that's a really, what inspires me about guys like you is that you're willing to sort of look every once in a while, pick your head up and look around and go, am I going in the right direction? And if knowledge equals confidence and ignorance equals fear, what if you're getting the wrong knowledge, right? What if you're following the wrong people? And you have the ability to sort of look up and look around and go, okay, assess the landscape. Where do I want to go? And pull back for a second. Slowing down sometimes is hard to really make a decision, because I know that you said sort of EXP was an easy decision, but what was it? I think people assume that it's easy to switch brokerages and make a decision like that, but was it that easy, or was it more difficult?
I think the thought of switching and having to start all over in terms of your branding and start of a lot of the stuff that comes with when you've been in a brokerage for a certain amount of time or years. I think, at least for me, that was the only thing that was in the back of my mind. And then obviously I took a look at EXP and their competitor, and both kind of the same, but EXP is a lot more mature in the business, and they're first to do it, and they've kind of been there the longest, and so their trial is proven.
Yep.
But aside of that, it's the downline. You're able to join, if you're able to join a good downline that matches your vision and goals and kind of what you need. And that part was easy.
Yeah.
That part, it took me a little bit, but it was what I was thinking, was it the right time to move? And I hear this from everyone, and you might agree. And then, but as soon as I did it, I'm like, fuck, I should have done this a long time ago.
I said that too. And I think that's the problem, is that, we sometimes we get complacent in the way that we do things. We get addicted to the way that we do things. And it's easier to stay the same than to sort of implement change.
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about sort of the rev share options and that sort of thing, because right now there's I think as of like a month or two ago, there's 67 different virtual brokerage models with rev share. They might be virtual, they might be some physical office space, but there's like 67 rev share opportunities. So every real estate company that I think comes into existence now is going to be much more like EXP than some of the traditional brokerages that are out there, because that's ultimately what real estate agents who are producing the results, that's what they ultimately want. They want to have an environment where they can create their own sort of ecosystem and benefit from it in perpetuity.
Yes.
When you talk about the downline and what were the value that's sort of there, I think that's the big differentiator. When you look at all of the different rev share opportunities that are out there, I think that there's a lot that will become similar. Like you said, EXP has the longest track history. If you take the 67 other rev share brokerages and combine them, they don't do half the amount of business that EXP does. So we have a huge competitive advantage. But outside of that, I think going forward, the organization's ability to attract people to their company ultimately will come down to the relationships, because that's what's truly impactful. Like when you're doing it on a daily basis, yes, company size is great, all of that kind of stuff gives a competitive, but it's really about the relationship and the value that you can get, similar to what you experience when you're providing value to your clients. That feeling that you get, that's what good sort of organizations within a rev share opportunity like EXP, that's where the true value is. So I think that was really big. What excites you about going forward here? Like what are you looking forward to the most with the next year or two of your career?
Yeah, it's just not just growing my business and doing, getting a lot more listings, and so being able to leverage my time a little bit and kind of getting some of that time back while still helping people is probably what excites me the most. And I know for a fact I'm going to need some help doing so. But just now being in the right place, in the right platform, and being able to help folks not just achieve the dream of owning a home, but also help agents kind of join the EXP or join the team and be able to grow and help me serve those underserved folks is what excites me. That's what I'm geared for. That's what I'm preparing for. We didn't get into this, but coming from a household that was on Section 8 and food stamps growing up. My father was incarcerated for most of my life. We didn't do a lot of 5-year plans. We had a 60 or 30-day plan, mostly, just to get by. So I don't operate, that's just how the way that I was raised. I'm trying to change things a bit, but I don't operate on 5-year plans. I operate at most on 2-year plans. But for the next couple of years, what I have in store is just bringing a lot of value, great service to not just my clients, but also to potential agents that want to join us.
And so that's really inspiring too, because I think if you can, when I look at what you're capable of, if you're able to sort of come from where you were and recognize opportunities and take proactive steps, even back to, the Bigger Pockets podcast. I mean, that was something that you had to proactively go out and spend a certain amount of your life energy to, consume that information and then take action on it, right? You have that ability to create this outsized outcomes. And there's a lot of real estate agents that are sort of lost, right? They have the desire, but they really don't have the inspiration to do it. And so when I saw you and you came to events and you really dove in and you felt that sort of connection to helping other people, I really thought that there was a huge opportunity for you to have that impact, especially as you said, sort of in the communities that you feel are underserved. That is such a sort of a noble cause, but it takes a lot of dedication to actually implement things that will have a material effect on it, because you as an individual can only have so much impact on them.
Yes.
But you as an individual who can create an organization of people that then can go out and help that underserved community, that has a multiple effect, right? That has a compounding impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to kind of see where you can go with, your career. And if there are agents out there that are sort of inspired by what they're hearing from you, where can they go to kind of consume some information? Should they give you a call? Like, how should people get in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're spot on. And by the way, I just did a disservice to myself for waiting too long to be able to align myself with folks that are able to do it. I've been on my own since I was 17, literally living on my own by myself. And so I always thought that I if I didn't know, I had to find out, but I had to do it on my own. You don't have to. You can grow a lot faster just by joining the right team and aligning yourself with the right people. I'm thankful I did that. I'm thankful that you kind of guided me into doing so. Folks that want to connect with me, they could do that. You could call me, text me. I'm always available at 617-898-8828. You can find me. I spend a lot more time on Instagram than any other platform. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at Benny_Troncoso_RE. And yeah, I'm always available if folks want any questions answered or anything like that, or they have real estate to sell, call me.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be huge. And so, a lot of the times, we're sort of just leaning into sort of being uncomfortable, right? This podcast is probably 15 episodes deep. Even me being up on stages and sort of having that impact, like I'm 1 or 2 steps ahead of where you are right now. And that's the beauty, is that I'm being sort of led by a couple of people that are 1 or 2 steps ahead of me. And we all are going in this general direction. And so I think that that's the inspiring part for folks that want to be a part of this. There's room, right? There's so much room for us, because the more that we can impact other people, the more we can sort of pull back and have the time to impact other people.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be really exciting. Like I'm excited to think about where we could look. I know you don't plan for 5 years down the road. And, one of the things that I'm going to be pushing you to do is really to look at that, because I think people drastically underestimate what they can get done in 5 years, and they drastically overestimate what they can get done in a year.
Right.
Because one of the things that people say that I found a lot of impact on is that if it's not worth doing for a decade, it's not worth doing for a day. And I think that the path that you and I are on to impact and help communities and agents and sort of have a compounding impact on other people, it's worth doing for a decade.
Right.
And so I want to do this with you, and I'm excited about the next decade.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on, and we'll do this again sometime soon. But if you're inspired by what he's doing, follow him on social media on Instagram, Benny_Troncoso.
Troncoso, yeah.
_RE. Did you want to add like 14 numbers at the end of that just to make it a little bit more difficult?
Man. That's enough.
Shorten up that tag. But no, we'll have some fun. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Instagram, certainly pop onto YouTube. It just helps us, obviously pour out and do more, help more people. So thank you for watching.
Sounds good.
Peace.